Science is just now catching up on what martial artists have known for thousands of years. And I tell you the truth, one day they will truly realize how much they have lost by doing this to me. It was the same martial arts insight that understood the connection between balance, movement, and coordination, and sensory information processing and cognitive functioning that made the connection with the direction of humanity, what the proper social order is, and why the martial artist is the only fit leader, not a group of colluding sissies with no heart who are concerned with worldly matters alone. Recently, I've discussed how men have a higher brain volume in the hippocampus, the amygdala, the striatum, and the thalamus, and what it means, and the greater brain activity in the gray matter, which allows them to focus more effectively. So the hippocampus is responsible for memory and spatial awareness. Spatial has to do with objects relative to oneself and their relation and one's perception of these objects. The amygdala is involved in emotions, memory, and decision making. And there's wordplay involved in this. At the end, if I have time, I'll go over it. The striatum is learning, inhibition, and reward processing, right? What keeps you from learning, and what removes your inhibitions, and what despicable things people do when psych meds interfere with the natural processes of the brain, including what goes on in the striatum with their inhibitions. The thalamus is about processing and relaying sensory information to other parts of the brain. The white matter is the networking grid that connects gray matter and other processing centers, and the gray matter helps us focus on tasks. So now let's talk about the cerebellum. cerebellum. It is responsible for balance, movement, and coordination. And recently, according to the site McGill University, it says that they figured out it has to do with sensory information processing and cognitive functioning. So there's a connection between one's ability to coordinate and strike effectively, one's ability to masterfully apply spatial awareness in a sparring and combat situation, and cognitive functioning in general. Remember, psych meds cause neurological damage and cognitive impairments, something that they have been covering up for a while, and I've been talking about them reducing reservations and inhibitions for a while, and then eventually a few weeks ago or last week or something, it was brought to my attention that Adderall has a lawsuit against them for reducing inhibitions and causing people all kinds of trouble, a class action lawsuit at that. So when we talk about the cortex, right, women are supposed to have a larger brain volume in the cortex, but it's a combination of things that makes the brain an effective organ. Okay, just like it's a combination of skills that makes a great martial artist, not strength, not form alone, not rank, certainly not rank, a subjective, superficial idea that the way it is applied in our society. But it is the same in the brain. It is a combination of things. The M1, ironically, the A, right? The primary motor cortex is responsible for motor functioning. It is located in the frontal lobe. It generates neural impulses that control the execution of movements. Okay, so obviously it doesn't do it alone, but this is a key area of the brain, the primary motor cortex. Moves on to the SMA, the supplementary motor area or cortex. This helps to guide the body's movements by integrating sensory information. It controls muscles that are the muscles that are closest to the body's main axis. AXIS. All right, so of course, they're interfering with these parts of the brain with the drugs, and they're causing me cognitive impairment. And if I have time, we'll talk about the disabled hero argument and how it is despicable for the attractive women to have shunned this guy and shown an inability to understand his worth and while they're shunning him, and then to continue to shun him while he's disabled as a result of them not helping him, mind you, and a society which partially pushes a feminist agenda, right, and a white supremacist agenda. How much more detestable is it if it's a white feminist, right, having drugged him. I mean, look at the premotor cortex. It's not fully understood, and it has diverse functions, right? So science is still trying to catch up with what martial artists have known for a while. They've been targeting parts of the brain for a while, and they have been noticing when they inflict pain on that part of the brain, what happens, right? The mace, the Narmer mace head, right? He bashes the top of someone's skull, and he sees, what happens when I do that? What happens when I've been doing that for thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, certainly tens of thousands of years, over 100,000 years, certainly, of martial arts combat? What happens when we strike these parts of the brain? What happens when we strike the side of the head, the temporal lobe? What happens to these people? And certainly when the leopard is also called the surgeon. Surgical strikes, the surge of energy. The surge is where? So it may play, the premotor cortex may play a role in guidance of movement, spatial, sensory, etc., and understanding others' actions and abstract rules that are used to perform tasks. Okay, so going over what I've said, because some of you might be lost, men have a higher brain volume in certain areas, and it's just like, think of the brain as a muscle, right? It has to be refined naturally, genetically, and through nurture, through mental exercises. And martial arts is the most demanding mind-body exercise, right? Mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit. The brain-body connection I've been talking about for years in my videos. The mind, body, soul, spirit connection I've been talking about for years in my videos. He who is the top martial artist has the most effective brain, period. He has a superior form of intelligence, natural intelligence, a superior natural brain. No genetic modification to try to make women seem the same as men, try to alter the brain structure to make them perform as well as men, right? There's no spirituality in laboratory nonsense, right? There's no profound spiritual connection. There's no intangible heritage being communicated, and there's no continuity of this intangible heritage in genetic modification. And certainly the Sun Gate closes, the challenge ends because of their degree of sabotage, tampering, falsification, and fabricating evidence. They're thoroughly discredited. And above everyone else, to be fair, I'm not racist, the white Jew and Asian has to be seen as, he's utterly discredited. I don't care if they elevate a poor white guy from some trailer home. Because they have been doing things in the name of racial supremacy, despicably and dishonorably so, because they've worked together to screen out African martial arts till there's no legitimate African martial arts school, just house nigga African martial art institutes that don't teach anything, some geek teaching some bitch shit. It doesn't count, right? This is not royal martial arts passed down by Pharaoh. This is not legitimate martial arts societies becoming open to the public. This is house nigga bullshit that they teach. It's despicable for them to fund bitch niggas to do some bitch shit that can't possibly compete, and to change the nature of competitions to suit the peasant body structure and the non-African martial arts body structure more, and to give them the advantage. They are utterly discredited. I don't want to hear anything they have to say. Liars should shut up. Cheaters should shut up. Those who don't stand with Pharaoh should shut up when it comes to martial arts, period. Okay. The cerebellum, again, balance, movement, and coordination. And just recently, scientists are starting to catch up when it comes to the sensory information and cognitive functioning part of the cerebellum's processes and functioning. Okay, they're just recently saying, hey, these guys who can coordinate masterfully, they have superior cognitive functioning as well. Our tests must be off, What, were you a fucking idiot before? Were you just a complete sissy? Or you're just a dishonorable fucking scumbag? Either way, you should shut up. The fuck up. Anyway, the primary motor cortex, or M1, right? The one is the A as the hawk, right? The hawk has falcon eye, view, sight, divine insight. Okay, understanding movement, right? Spatial awareness as a result of spiritual cultivation and the resulting martial arts, regeneration, and reproductive processes. Punk ass motherfuckers. Think about the train comparison. If you can't get off the tracks when you perceive a train to be coming towards you, are you more intelligent than he that can? For that same reason and more, if you cannot outmaneuver somebody, you should shut the fuck up. He's more intelligent than you are. Spirit versus flesh, movement and awareness and consciousness, right? Subconscious mental processes, levels of consciousness, martial arts, awareness, alertness, and consciousness. Again, spatial awareness is how objects relate to you, right? Objects relative to oneself and in relation to one another. Again, I tell you, the cerebellum, among other parts of the brain, proves my point, right? You sapiosexual geek whores need to unfog your glasses and submit to Pharaoh. Okay? You want to live your life? Or do you want to be some kind of corporate geek? You want to spend the rest of your bloodline's existence trying to catch up on what my ancestors knew for thousands of years? Wake up. You are way behind. In the race, you have lost. And now you're resorting to unnatural bitch shit. I don't want to hear any racial supremacy arguments from the people who are still trying to catch up where it matters most. Shut up. The fuck up. So this leads to the ultimate failure of women, where the people responsible for this are basically saying they have the trophy wife. Therefore, they have the trophy and they've won. They're shallow, and some shallow corporate slut who would have been a prostitute in ancient Rome, openly so, and not subtly so to the unwise observer, to the foolish observer, but openly so. That is the proof that they've won. Some fair weather slut, okay? And that's all that they really care about. Their image, their ability to get women, the admiration of dumb sluts who have no brains, who can't focus to the point where they stand with me. And they use it. So as they're having fun with it, and they're saying, oh yes, who won, like a little bitch, right? Imagine the females that help them achieve that. Let's not forget, the one thing man should deny the enemies of righteousness and humanity, by default, is attractive women. If humanity can't do that, they're useless, they're worthless, what good are they? They're inhumane garbage, they're insensitive, indignant, indecorous scum as a group. That's the message. What is the message to the universe? You stupid mental health slut. Your message to the universe is you're a whore sleeping with the enemy. And for whose benefit? To what end? Then when you die, you can continue the mistakes of your forefathers, your despicable predecessors? Is that progress to you? Moving into the realm of the unnatural while you make arguments about save the earth? Aren't the people part of the earth? Aren't their natural state of existence? Isn't their natural state of existence? Isn't the ultimate failure of women sleeping with the most evil scum, the white-collar trash? Isn't the ultimate failure of the women the final failure that is significant as the world goes to a state of hopelessness and a state of no return? The point of no return is the shunning of the top martial arts. Isn't that the final and complete step of failure that they've taken toward hell? How can they turn their back on Pharaoh? Why he's pointing out exactly why they're wrong. Why should he even have to point out why they're wrong? And how can they continue to turn their backs on him? Certainly, females have failed. But you can't then turn around and say, hey, we're going to use these arguments. No, man has failed too. In a world that is based on failure, where the greatest failures are the most fit to lead scumbags to hell, you must concede that the woman is actually the superior leader. Because you're all sissy, sniveling failures. Have thoroughly disgraced your only worthy ancestors, whoever they might be, however many of them there might be. You have failed. And while you're drugging yourself up, while you're indulging in substances to make yourself feel better, never forget that you